Good morning, everyone. My name is Graham Henderson. I'm the president of Music Canada. Just a little bit of business to get out of the way. Our social media hashtag for today is Music Can Help. So welcome to the official launch of Music Canada's study of the music industry in BC, which we have titled From Adversity to Opportunity. It's a study that's perhaps long overdue because of the importance of the BC music scene to Canada's national and international identity. Now, obviously, based upon who's up here, we're here to do more than talk about the realm of possibility and about what could or might happen. I think we're here to talk about action, about what is going to happen. But we need to wait a little moment longer before we hear about that. Music Canada is a national organization that aspires to be a trusted source, a respected forum, and an inspirational advocate for all things music. Our members, Sony, Warner, and Universal, are the folks who stand behind and who funded this research, and we owe them a debt of thanks for what is a very significant investment. But it's the music community of BC who supplied the impetus, the motivation, and the passion upon which our work is based. And while the instigators are many, a few do stand out. For example, my dear friend Garth Richardson, who literally berated me on Facebook to stand up for the BC music scene. Bob Deeth, Scott Johnson, Rick Baker, Patrick Aldis, and the entire team at Music BC, who laid so much of the groundwork and supplied us with local wisdom and know-how. Nick Blasco, whose advice and connections were indispensable. And of course, there he is, Bruce Allen. When Bruce Allen starts demanding your attention, well, I think we all know where that leads. Action stations. So why are we here? We're here because BC has one of the world's great music scenes. We're here because the people of BC and its government are people who care passionately about their music and their artists. But we're also here because this great natural resource is imperiled. We heard this message loud and clear from the over 100 music community leaders that we interviewed. Their opinions and recommendations form the basis of our report, which I think you all were able to get a copy of. The genesis of the idea was simple, yet daunting. Why not imagine, why not implement a provincial program which would take into account the vast changes that have swept through music's ecosystem? But to do this requires us to think differently about music, to change the way we think about it. Now, in international surveys, people repeatedly rank music as one of life's, and I'm quoting from the New York Times here, supreme sources of pleasure and emotional power. But a new MIT study goes even further. Apparently, our brain gives more specialized treatment in its development to music than it does to speech. This clearly underscores the absolutely critical importance of music education to the growth and development of our young people. Music also has a cohesive healing potential, a subject which will be celebrated by Music Canada at our upcoming Global Music Forum at Canada Music Week in May, where we are going to be celebrating the pioneering work of Laura Hassler and Musicians Without Borders. Now, if you haven't heard of them, this is a global network of musicians and music lovers based in Netherlands that use music to heal the wounds of war. They design community projects around the world that help people deal with trauma, fear, isolation, and the effects of conflict. Music, in a very real and meaningful sense, can be said to be or define us as a species. Now, studies undertaken by Music Canada demonstrate the importance of music to tourism, to education, to the diversification of municipal, provincial, and federal economies. Music, as it turns out, doesn't drive just our culture, but our economy. We now understand that thriving music scenes attract and retain young, talented workers and the businesses that employ them. Music, in effect, can be the glue that holds our communities together. And it's this aspect which is attracting the attention of chambers of commerce across the country, including our friends at BC Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business in British Columbia. We are so thankful to have the endorsement and support of the BC Chamber. That's Jon Garson on the end there. And we were happy to have him partner with us in our launch. Our report has collected a wealth of wisdom from the people of BC, from those inside the music industry and in government itself. The report was in effect a collaborative effort with the government of BC. They were excited by what we were telling them, and we were urged to press on and come up with recommendations. Embracing our recommendations would help BC too. Create and retain jobs, grow and diversify the economy, attract foreign direct investment, build more vibrant music scenes, boost tourism development, attract talent to other sectors like digital arts and technology, and finally, contribute to cultural and artistic growth. We argue that BC does not just need a fund, BC needs a music strategy, and I think they're going to get it. BC needs to brand itself nationally and internationally as the music mecca that it is. BC needs to provide the policy framework to offer a turbo boost to that which it already has. Our recommendations in this report are tailored to the specific needs of BC and are designed to position the province to compete in an increasingly global marketplace while also creating opportunities for emerging BC artists to succeed and earn a living from their music. We have suggested in this report that a $15 million investment would produce an estimated total GDP impact of $73 million for BC's economy. Additionally, red tape reductions would boost music activity relating to venues and festivals throughout the province. Importantly, we believe that more focus and funding on music education is a linchpin to this strategy, and in this regard, our discussions with Minister Bernier have been fantastically encouraging. What a guy.
Former singer in a rock band.
Oh, I know. I've seen the pictures. I'm not sure he wanted me to.
No,
he's...
And it was all covers. Yeah. He was doing Loverboy covers.
But I think he opened for Nickelback. At least he says he did. But surely all of this suggests that music deserves special attention from policymakers. Surely you would think that governments should respond to these new ways of understanding the importance of music. Surely governments should act. But, oh, people will tell you that governments do not move at the speed of business, that they are incapable of nimbly responding to the rapidly changing environment, that bureaucracy and government is impenetrable, that change takes years. Well, they're wrong, at least in the case of BC. At every point, our message has been embraced with enthusiasm by the government and in particular by the Premier. We have received valuable guidance and advice, all of which has led us to where we are right now, trembling, or at least I am, in anticipation of what the Premier is about to announce. Now, before I turn the podium over to Jon Garson, President of the BC Chamber, who will introduce the person everybody really wants to hear from, there is somebody else I must acknowledge. And he's not here today only because he's performing a sold-out show tonight in New York, and that's Bryan Adams. From the moment that Bruce Allen put me in touch with Bryan, it was clear that this was a cause he would embrace wholeheartedly. He has been a passionate supporter of our work, and I can say without a hint of exaggeration that his involvement was pivotal. Bryan flew in especially to attend our reception at the museum in Victoria. In addition to speaking, folks who were there will recall that he doubled as Jesse Roper's guitar tech when a microphone failed. But what he said there, I think, reflects what this is all about. This is not about preserving the past or even the now. This is about the future. Young musicians, he said, face a very different reality today. There was a system, a ladder, if you will, that yesterday's aspiring young musicians were able to ascend. Well, that world has vanished, and businesses, governments, and yes, fans need to think about how we can all work together to create a more congenial and, yes, profitable environment for our musicians. They must be able to earn a living, a decent living, as professionals. If music is one of life's supreme sources of pleasure and emotional power, then we should all honor and support those who create it. And with that said, I'll turn the podium over to Jon, who will introduce the Premier.
Thank you, Graham. So it's my pleasure to represent BC's business community and our 125 affiliated chambers of commerce and boards of trade located in communities across the province. The Chamber has long been a champion of the importance of economic diversity and vibrant local communities. We have seen the provincial government champion a range of industries that have made BC the most diversified economy in Canada. Whether it is film, digital, life sciences or tech, BC's focus on creating new and creative industries have allowed us to weather the drop in commodity prices and lead the country in economic growth. Our members see the music industry as having significant potential to further economic opportunities across the province. From a personal perspective, as a father of a 10-year-old daughter, I've seen my daughter flourish in her school music program. All children need the opportunity to express themselves through music as part of their education and know that this is a viable career path for them here in British Columbia. Therefore, we, the BC Chamber, are very happy to be here to support the report's recommendations as a means of ensuring music's contribution to communities and the economy flourishes in British Columbia. So thank you, Graham, and Music Canada for raising our level of understanding of the importance of music to the BC economy and its enormous potential. And it's now my pleasure to introduce the person that you're all really here to hear from, the Premier of British Columbia, the Honourable Christy Clark.
Every time somebody said the person you're really here to hear from, I'm sure you were all thinking Michael Bublé, so I'm sorry to disappoint you. Thank you very much, John and Graham. Today we're talking about something that I think is the real international language. I'm sorry, Esperanto, but the real international language is music. And for us here in BC, it's got to be such a tremendous source of pride. This small province of 4.5 million people has produced some of the world's greatest and best known artists, but not just the Michael Bublés and the Sarah McLachlans and the Bryan Adams and people who would be recognized anywhere they went anywhere in the world. Also, all of the small and emerging artists, many of whom didn't end up with a huge career, but who made a tremendous contribution to our province nonetheless. And this is the highest form of human expression. And it is something that, whatever our views, brings us together. I know around our dinner table, when we couldn't talk about politics or religion, we talked about music. And it is something that I think is often undervalued. So, John has talked a little bit and Graham have talked a little bit about the impact on the economy. There's no question about that. We have a really diverse economy in BC. We've put tech industries growing really fast. We put $100 million into a venture capital fund to grow that business. We are putting hundreds of millions of dollars to support the film industry in growing in the Lower Mainland in particular, but all across the province. And we're doing well because we're balancing our budget. We're on our way to paying off our debt. But I think, need to pay attention now that we really have the space in our economy because we're growing to all the things that really make this such a great place to live. Because living in a place isn't just about having a job. It's about living in a place that you love. And one of the things that makes a city a great place to live and a place that you want to live is music. It's live music venues. And I can tell you, we were talking about having bands come and record in British Columbia as an example, getting a band like Green Day to come up and record here. I saw Green Day live at the Cruel Elephant when they were just starting out. I was at the Savoy to see Blue Rodeo. I saw Michael Bublé the first time at my best friend's wedding at a mosque when he was 16 years old. And you think about those live music venues, REM playing at the Commodore, or the shows that you used to see at Richards on Richards, Club Soda, all those bands, Graceland. I think I saw Ogre at Graceland, or maybe it was Club Soda. And I look back at the time when I used to go out and really have time to enjoy the live music scene. And I think about how that made me love my city and how it changed my life. It gave me something intangible. And I think as a government, I think British Columbians want us to support that. So today, we are providing a $15 million grant to support the establishment. no matter who you are, no matter how young, how old, no matter how esoteric your art may be, we want you to have a chance to succeed in British Columbia, and we want you to know that our province supports and is passionate about what you're doing and the way that you're changing the place that we live. So it's going to include money for music education, live performances in venues all across the province, a tour strategy and development to help especially young artists find their way out there to get known, and to support music tourism to come to British Columbia for showcases where we can bring international talent and international investment, but make sure that BC artists also get a chance to be heard. This is really what British Columbia, this is how we should see ourselves. It's how we want to see ourselves. And I want to say thanks to all the artists that are here, because big and small, old and new, and Michael, I'm not counting you as old. You're younger than me. But established and just beginning, all of you change a lot of people's lives. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, particularly with respect to live music, which I'm really passionate about, thank you to the community here, because when you go see a live band at some of the small venues around the province, or at the Rickshaw or the Biltmore or wherever you're going, that crowd is other musicians. And this is a tight-knit community of people who support each other. So I'm happy today to be joining you and representing your government in supporting you and supporting each other as well. So thank you very much.
I'm going to ask Michael to step up and thank the Premier. Thank you.
First, I just thank you so much. I mean, what an incredible showing. I walked into the studio, and I think all of us were genuinely surprised and thrilled to see the interest, the level of interest and care you had. I wish that your cameras had been set up on this side so that you could see the faces that I'm seeing when this announcement was made. If there's any wonder of how much this city, its culture... I look down, I see Bruce Allen, and you can't see him, but he's losing it. He's very emotional because he cares. It's obviously he loves us and his artists and his city now, but he has a vision of what he sees as our future. I'm sure, just like him, I have no understanding why this cannot be the Nashville of Canada. You look at a place like Nashville, and I believe that it's about over $9 billion that they bring in. After everything's done, it's about 5.9, I believe, billion. Even a place like Melbourne, Australia, it's famous for being this wonderful musical centerpiece. And I also know that the Premier is a genuine fan of music. I know that she goes to a lot of concerts. She supports a lot of artists locally, big rock stars, I know. And I know that the job of a politician is not an easy one. I know that there are many decisions that are difficult. I imagine there are many decisions that she makes that will be very polarizing. And I can only imagine that she wakes up on certain days and wonders if she's chosen the right profession. But today, what I find pretty exceptional, and I think it's a testament to you and what you've done, is that today the rock stars are cheering for you.
Oh, thanks.
So, I like that, called myself a rock star. That felt really cool. Woo! Anyway, no, I want to thank you so much for backing British Columbia's music sector. And I know I speak for all of the artists in this room when I say that your government support for the music community will make an incredible impact. You guys know that my story is not unlike many others who've had the privilege of building a career in music. For me, it happened right here in British Columbia. And thanks to you, Premier, people who want to pursue a music career here will be able to do so and not have to leave home, which is pretty incredible. I mean, for a long time, people have had to go to Ontario if they want to be able to afford to make the record. Who wants to go to Ontario to make a record? Truly, it's never been tougher to develop a career as an artist. The $15 million that Premier Clark has committed to this industry is going to help that BC has everything it takes to make a thriving and strong music scene. In addition to the provincial government, I'd like to applaud all the musical industry stakeholders, because there's a lot of people that stood up and came together, which is amazing in our business, because you folks know that that doesn't always happen. I want to thank you for coming together and supporting this report. Let's rebuild British Columbia's music scene so it is stronger than it's ever been before. Thank you.
I'm going to get Sam and the Premier up here, and the Premier's going to answer some questions. Sam, you want to take it away?
Michael.
Okay.
So I know we've got a lot of people in the room here. If you can help me by letting me know you've got a question, let us know who you are and where you're from.
Okay. First, anybody can ask me first live show I ever went to? Oh, that's a good question. I was in high school, I think grade 10 or something, and we snuck out to go to an all-ages show at the Italian Cultural Center, headlined by DOA, Pointed Sticks, Art Bergman's band. I can't remember if it was the K-Tel or the K-Tels, the Young Canadians at the time. And I remember, like, we went to this show, and I couldn't, it was the first live show I'd ever been to, and I could not believe it. Now, it was punk rock, so you can imagine. But you know what I thought about? You know what I remember about it? Is that as a 16 or 15-year-old girl, I always, you know, when I would go to a club or something, you know, you go out, you're kind of, you're fat, or you're not stylish, or you're not cool. And I remember going to that show, and everybody was cool. So that was when I decided that I loved live music. So, and DOA was great that night.
So if we can start with questions.
Joey's gotten into politics, by the way, Michael. It's not too late for you.
I'm going to change my last name
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
So if we can start with any questions about the announcement.
The possibilities are endless.
So I've got a question over here. You'll have to speak up and just let us know who you are and where you're from.
Premier, Tyler Horton with Business in Vancouver newspaper. The Ontario Music Con has been running since 2013. It was $45 million over the course of 3 years. I see this one's $15 million. Is the opportunity here for this to extend beyond the $15 million further down the road?
Yes, it is. We're going to monitor, see how well it does. I mean, we want to, the thing about these investments is we do really want to stimulate the growth of the music scene and economic impact for jobs for people. So we want to, we're going to make sure, we're going to see how it works and follow that. And I mean, I think it's a great investment. If I'm right, you'll see us investing in this again. I will add, though, in Ontario, 3 times the population, $15 million a year. British Columbia, 1/3 the population, $15 million a year. We are in it to win this.
Question from Shane Woodford at CKNW.
This is for one of the, not for you, Premier.
Okay, good.
It struck me that people might not know exactly how the music industry is struggling. I wonder if maybe one of the gentlemen, Michael or somebody else, could actually speak to what the challenges are out there. We talk a lot about housing and affordability in the city, and I don't think many people realize the sort of, you know, overflow effect on musicians and the music industry in general.
How do you mean overflow effect?
Well, I'm just wondering what the struggles are. Like, what this fund obviously addresses an issue, and I'm just curious to know, like, exactly what the issue is. Like, how is the musical industry suffering, and how are artists suffering as they try and come up?
Graham says he could answer that for you, Shane. If you're...
You know, just some numbers. 1999 at retail, the music industry in Canada was worth $1.5 billion. Today, it's under $500 million. So there's $1 billion missing. And in the early 2000s, everybody kind of had this idea that $1 billion was just going to miraculously reappear in artists' pockets, and that record labels and lawyers and managers would all be gone. But obviously that hasn't happened. And in fact, musicians today are challenged, and Michael was making this point, in a way that they've never been challenged before. The ladder that they used to be able to ascend, there's rungs missing, and the strategies and policies that governments evolved in the 60s and 70s and 80s to assist our musicians, they're working, but they need to be adjusted. Provincial governments, municipal governments, all need to look at ways to create this environment where we can rebuild what amounts to a middle class, which has literally been wiped out.
And just real quick, Premier, is this any of this flow into the school system to bring music up?
Well, through the music education part, absolutely. We'll see some, I mean, I think young people need to be exposed to music to know that it's something that they can do. And, you know, music education is going to support that arts education in schools. And, you know, but Music Canada is going to be, I should say, managing this fund for us. They're going to be, or not Music Canada, Creative BC, sorry.
Okay.
I got that wrong. Got that wrong. Creative BC is going to be managing this fund for us. And they'll work with Music Canada to make sure that we're delivering it in the most effective way we can. But as I said, it will include music education, so that'll find its way into schools around the province. That is one of the most effective ways to deploy it, because we've got, you know, a huge number of schools in every single community.
So we have another question about today's event before we move on to anything else. I just want to, yep.
For the Premier, we've seen how the low Canadian dollar has helped the film industry. Do you see that being a factor at all in the music business?
I hope it is. I mean, it seems like this is a perfect time to do it. If we want to make this investment and attract more, you know, more music to British Columbia, especially from California and LA, absolutely. So recording artists like REM, who've recorded here in the past, and you can look at a long list, we want them back. So there's that part of it, but we are also competing with other provinces in the country. And as Michael said, you know, no artist wants to have to go to Toronto and and make their life there. And so we want to make this a great place for artists to be able to stay and grow, make their careers. And, you know, while they're growing their careers and leading a fulfilling life, they're growing the economy and all the other people who work in the music business. And then from my perspective as a citizen, they're making this a way better place to live, because we will be surrounded by a thriving, exciting music community. And that's what, as I said, I really believe that is at the heart of any great city.
So Anita from News 1130's got a question, then we'll come over here.
Mr. Bublé talked about making us the Nashville of Canada. How do you expect to do that with only $15 million?
Well, I mean, we're getting started. I think we've got to see how it works. I mean, we've already started to become the LA of Canada for film. You look at that. Sony Digital Imageworks has their global headquarters now in Vancouver. And there are many other movie companies that have huge presences here. So if we can become the LA of the world for film, why can't we become the Nashville of the world for music? But you got to start somewhere, and we want to deploy this money well and wisely, see how it works, and then in the coming years, continue it, grow it, change the way we deploy it based on what we see.
I think part of the onus too, it sits with us as artists, as managers, as people within this business, to actually speak to the record companies, to talk to other management companies, and tell them that there is actually the reality of coming here.
Sorry, Michael, can you get the microphone?
No. I want nothing I say to be on record. No, I really do. I feel like the onus is on people like us who have established ourselves in this business, to talk to people throughout the world, to tell them that there is an opportunity to come here. Because to be honest with you, they don't know yet. They don't know yet. They haven't met us yet. Boomy. I'm so thrilled I put myself on microphone for this. No, but truly, I mean, this should be a thriving music community. It really should. And I think that, you know, Bruce is, a guy like Bruce who is already on the ball. I believe he is. Well, I don't believe it. I know it. I know that this is in his mind, and this is something that he's striving for. Can I leave now?
You can. I'll just also respond to that question that unlike music responds incredibly quickly to very small amounts of stimulus. You don't need $500 million. So, you know, that's one of the great things about music, and the experience in Ontario has been quite extraordinary with their $15 million.
So we've got a question on my left from the George Strait, and then we'll open it up to other subjects, because I know people might have questions about other stuff.
Hi there. So we've talked a lot about Vancouver and making it the new Nashville and sort of city-oriented portion of the plan, but how is this going to look for more rural communities cities and cities outside of the Lower Mainland.
That's a,
Money.
can I ask Jon Garson to speak to that? Because that was one of the reasons that the Chamber was involved in this, because they're a really provincially representative organization of small venues, small businesses that are supporting music in communities. John, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Premier. Rightly enough, there's been a lot of focus on Vancouver, but BC has a thriving music scene across the province. You have to look at the impact of an event like Shambhala at Salmo, just outside Nelson, that has 10,000 people a year, that generates huge amounts of economic activity, and of course we know about Pemberton and Squamish as well. But when we went out to our members and asked them from across the province, is this an initiative the BC Chamber should be backing? We were surprised that it was the Fernies of the world and the smaller communities that, as part of their vibrancy as a community, really look on music as an underpinning for that. So I think this initiative will help a lot of other communities recognize that music is an integral part of them growing, and when you get more visitors and more economic activity, that just is fantastic stuff for small business.
And I think the other thing I would add to that is on the music education side, in really small communities, sometimes they have trouble providing a full array of arts programming in schools. So the music education program is going to help us be able to give kids in really little communities better access to music education, which hopefully, I mean, you know, you don't have to come from a big community to be a great talent, and we really want to help those young people see their future too. So
we'll give me a chance just to ask a few questions about other subjects for the Premier. We've got Laura from CP.
The comments in
Michael's going to answer all these questions for me. Can you do this, Michael?
The comments in the throne speech about Alberta failing to diversify its economy and allowing government spending to get out of control, were those directed at the current NDP government or the previous Conservative government? And why are you kicking Alberta when it's down?
They weren't directed at any. They weren't directed specifically at anything. It's really a cautionary tale. Alberta is a province that for decades has had tremendous wealth. I mean, and Peter Lougheed set up their Heritage Fund to protect that. And for decades, government after government of all different stripes spent like sailors. And what we saw was they, ultimately, is we saw them really squander a tremendous opportunity. They didn't diversify their economy. They didn't put aside their money. And now their government, and it's not about the politics of it. Their government's really struggling to try and support the province. They are our best friends in this country. And when Alberta struggles, we all struggle. So we want to continue to support Albertans who are coming to British Columbia to find jobs. That's great. We need them here. But we also want to see Alberta succeed. At the same time, we want to make sure that in British Columbia, we don't fall into that same trap. We got to learn from that. And that means making sure our economy is diverse, and it means making sure, as we said in the throne speech, we create a prosperity fund that locks up the wealth for much of the wealth from our resources so that it doesn't get frittered away, and our kids will be able to benefit from it in the long term. So I really look at Alberta and their experience over the years as, if nothing else, a cautionary tale for all the rest of us. And I think, shame on us if we don't learn those lessons.
Good answer, good answer. From now on, I think we should do this like Family Feud. And no matter what you say, we just high five and support each other.
You mean you didn't mean that, Michael?
All right, we've got time for a few questions here, and then we'll have to get going.
Hi there, Dan Mangan here. As a mid-level musician, especially in this room.
I can't see you, Dan.
Right here.
Oh, hi.
I can't tell you how thrilled I am of this injection into the music industry, especially after the cultural sector getting gutted a number of years, not too long ago. And I'm curious how, if there's an inclination, how this money will get disseminated. It's a big, beautiful number, and it's so thrilling. Where is that going to go? Is that going to go to emerging artists, and how? I just would love to hear some kind of explanation of exactly how it's going to funnel to people making a living.
Right, because you need some. You want to know how to apply, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, the vision is that it would support artists that are emerging artists and established artists who are trying to find their way onto a bigger stage. So, the music education part we've talked about. And then there's there would be some funds for live music to support live music venues. I mean, the Railway Club, for example, I can't tell you how many gigs I went to there, and boy, what a shame that we're losing that. But although, we've seen a few others come and go, I guess, over the years. And then supporting artists in developing tour plans and those kinds of things. So Dan, in terms of the details of how it will be disseminated, it will come from Creative BC. The fund is going to be parked there, and artists will be able to apply for that. Artists and management will be able to apply for that. So they haven't worked out all the details of what that'll look like yet, but they're going to, I hope, have that up on the Creative BC website really soon. And Music Canada has been a big part of helping advise on how that will work. So I apologize I don't have details for you today.
But also the study itself contains dozens of recommendations. The study itself contains dozens of recommendations. So if you have a look at the study, that's a start. I'm sure there's going to be a consultation phase. It's a lot of expertise at Creative BC. Now there's just a chance to design something that's a world champion.
So we got time for 2 more questions.
Premier, TransLink has a new CEO. Have you met with him, and if so, what was the conversation like? And if you haven't met with him, what are you hoping for it to be like when you do?
Well, I haven't met with him. I'm delighted that the mayors have chosen somebody, which is their job. And I hope that what we get out of it is a transit system that is dependable, reliable, always there when people need it, and that it's at a cost that people can afford. That's what they're there to do. And they've had some notable problems over the last little while, so I'm hoping that the new CEO will make sure that they avoid some of those.
Do you feel it's important to point out that it's the mayor's job?
Well, I mean, I would have met with them by now if it was my job.
Okay, so Premier, just again, you've been saying a lot about how the economy of BC is the strongest in Canada, and there's been lots of talk about MSP premiums in this province. Are we going to see relief, if you can give us any specifics, in the budget next week, so that we'll see fewer people having to pay these costs that many other people in the country don't have to pay?
You're right, Marcel. I'm glad you asked. We created 50,000 jobs in the last year. BC is #1 in Canada. We doubled the country in economic growth, and we're projected to do so for the next year. So I don't want to sound like Marco Rubio, but that's that is the truth. So we're doing really well. The budget, what you'll see is you'll see relief across the board for people in all different sectors. This is part of that, is supporting economic growth and in really targeted investments in areas where we can afford to do it now. So I don't want to talk about some of the details in the budget. There are here's the thing about the MSP system is it's antiquated, it's old, and the way people pay for it generally doesn't make a whole ton of sense. But it is really, so therefore, it's really hard to try and make the sensible changes that we need to do. So we've started to make some of those changes. Like, for example, we announced that single mothers, their children will no longer have to pay MSP, which was just terribly unfair before. And you'll see a few more incremental changes. I think in terms of wholesale change, though, it's going to take a little longer for us to work through some of that. But you will see some things in this budget.
So they're not going up then?
Well,
The rates aren't going to be increased then?
well, we're not in the budget planning to do anything that hasn't already been announced. We're at this point, what we're planning is the relief, is some relief.
Great,
So,
thanks everyone.
all right, thanks everybody.
We have one final speaker, and that's Scott Johnson from our partners, Music BC, without whom all of this study wouldn't have been possible. So Scott, why don't you?
I know I'm the guy you really came to see, right? Who is that guy? A lot of you probably do know me. I look around the room, and I'm here in my capacity as president of the board of directors for Music BC. It's the nonprofit music industry association in British Columbia that represents over 1,000 members from all 4 corners of the province, and it represents artists from independent and emerging artists to major label artists. We represent producers, industry, labels. So I'm here to represent you today. I look around the room. I'm an artist first. My dad, who's in the room, think the question was posed to the Premier. What was the first concert you ever saw?
I asked myself that
Yeah,
question.
that was, so I'm asking myself, and I thought, was it Van Halen? Was it? And it was my dad. You know, my dad's in the room. He's been a full-time artist his entire career, and he's had a successful career. And I'm very thankful for that. And what that's allowed me to do is relate to different levels of industry and hopefully represent the interests of you. Our goal at Music BC is to be that voice. And what we've seen in this province in the last, well, it's been 10 plus years, but especially the last 5 and the last 3 since the creation of the Ontario Music Fund, we've seen a further erosion of our heritage acts, our industry, our partners moving to cities that have identified themselves as music communities, whether they be Nashville, whether they be Los Angeles, whether they be Austin, Texas, whether they be Toronto. So I've often thought this is the Nashville of the North, not Toronto. We are the Nashville of the North. It's time we stand up and represent ourselves as such. And the funny thing is, timing is a beautiful thing. Things just happen sometimes that you have no control over. They start just moving along. And it started in conversations with our past executive director, Bob Deeth, who thank you so much for your time and commitment over the years. Conversations with Nimbus, Mike Schroeder at Nimbus and Garth Richardson, Barb Seaton at SOCAN, the new CEO, Prem Gill from Creative BC, who will be working in partnership with this fund, hopefully. Karen Lamar from the BC government. Mr. Bruce Allen. His team's been extraordinarily instrumental in this creation of this fund through the study. There's been so many people, whether it's artist industry, that have been instrumental in this, but I first and foremost must thank the Premier, Christy Clark, and her government for creating this fund and recognizing what this community needs. So thank you very much. You know, we firmly stand behind this report that was created. If you haven't got a chance to read it, I know it's quite long, but make sure you go through it. It's a very thorough report, and it's very enlightening, and it's the nicest report we've been a part of. We're very proud and stand by that report. I want to thank Music Canada and their constituents, that being Sony Music Canada, Universal Music Canada, and Warner Music Canada, for their investment in this report, in this study. I want a special thanks to Jennifer Hardy from Music Canada, who's in the room somewhere, and Siobhan. And Mr. Graham Henderson. He's done so much throughout this. I can't speak enough about his work in our community and how that is, we are going to reap the rewards of that. So, thank you. You know, I apologize if I left someone out. I have to thank my Music BC board, Patrick Aldis, who's been instrumental. He's our vice president. Rick Baker, I mentioned Barb Seaton, my entire board and the staff who are here that have done a tremendous job in setting this. But I can't thank you people enough. I look around the room and we have the biggest artists in the room from around the world, up on stage, some on the floor in front of me. And we have industry, from emerging industry, from independent artist managers in the room, to independent artists. And we have emerging artists, some of who have spoken. We all have rallied together around this because we all believe in the community and the power of British Columbia and the industry here in this great province. So thank you all for coming out and representing and showing our Premier and everybody how much this means to you. Thank you. We're just going to step off the stage and we're going to have a little quick transition. So we're going to have a stripped down performance, a couple of songs from Mother Mother. So please sit tight. Yeah, stay seated. We're going to exit and give them a second to get set up here, and thank you so much for coming out.
There's a team of physicists who were able to detect 2 black holes colliding in space, which is the first direct evidence of gravity waves in space. It's a big day. They've been working on this thing for like 200 years. Wow! But I tell you, like, this breakthrough really pales in comparison to that of the BC Music Fund being set into motion. Right? So we're extremely grateful and humbled to be here for this. Yeah, very thankful. It might just secure our not having to get real jobs in life. I got rhythm sections at home eating sugar cereal right now, watching sports. And we want to keep it that way. So thank you so much to Music BC, everybody who made this happen. God bless my mother. Except for the rhythm section. But they're just the rhythm section.
Bed by bed, gonna get my bricks out in the sticks. Bed by bed, gonna build my house in the wildest thickets. Gonna get away from all those miles out my shit. I'm gonna say goodbye to all the la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. I'm getting on a mountain, away from the people on the ground, and some cop sticking in my way. One by one, gonna get my properties all bundled up to the branch of the poplar tree and saunter off with a buck and a wildebeest. We're getting lost, we're getting lost, we're getting lost. I'm getting on a mountain, away from the people on the ground, and some cop sticking in my way. Chop, chop, we're gonna build a cabin up top on a pretty little mountain. Fuck off all the people on the ground, yeah. No, I won't bring too much of anything. Maybe a little slicker for the rain. Maybe just a good book and a heart to break. I'll make a mistress of a little wicked thing. Bit by bit, gonna get my bricks out in the sticks. Bit by bit, gonna build my house in the wildest thickets. Gonna get away from all those miles and my shit. I'm gonna say goodbye to all la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. I'm getting on a mountain, away from the people on the ground, and some cop sticking in my way. Chop, chop, we're gonna build a cabin up top on a pretty little mountain. Fuck off all you people on the ground, yeah.
Thank you. Shit. We just swore more than all the speeches. Yes. That's why we chose that song. Report. I'm sure there's a lot of swearing put into that green report. I remember doing a report in my grade 5. It was a very stressful proposition. I didn't read it for that very reason. It's like, homework nightmares. Thank you so much for being such an attentive audience. And yeah, beautiful, brilliant strides forth in reinvigorating and reinventing this crazy time in the music industry here in BC, Canada, across the world, universe, black holes colliding in space. Have a good day.
I got a date on Friday. Not gonna eat anything till then. I'm gonna and I rehearse my greeting. I say hello without too much intent. She gonna think I'm dreaming. She'll wanna show me off to all her friends. Yeah, you know she would. Manifesting love and fate. I am a man and I confess I fake. When I go hungry, I go nail and chew. When I go hungry, I go hungry for the truth. I didn't write no book on love. I picked it up, then put it down. It didn't get me off the top. She'll have a laugh that can't pretend. In my design I will have my name. I'll grab the tab and I would tip 60%. I'm manifesting love and faith. I am a man, so I must be insane. When I go hungry, I go through the bone. When I go hungry, I would meet my little ones. I thought I wrote the book on fun, until I put it out to find I couldn't sell a single one. I'm manifesting love and fate. I am a man and I confess I fake. When I go hungry, I go nail and chew. When I go hungry, I go hungry for the truth. I didn't write my motherfucking book on love. I picked it up, then put it down. It didn't get me off the top. Thanks so much.